Welcome to another episode of Into the Pot, the show where I review different pieces of media, what they meant to me, and how they've added flavor to the stew of my life. Today we're talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. As always, I'll start with the good, then the bad, and finish off with the themes and details that resonated with me. Beware, there will be spoilers ahead, so let's go ahead and start off with the good. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is by far my game of the year. It is such an amazing game for three, I would actually say, three main components. One, the game is visually stunning. It is a gorgeous game. The character designs are fantastic. The overall world is painted to such a beautiful canvas. And it's so gorgeous. It makes me think like, holy smokes, this is looking amazing. And two, the gameplay is actually really fun. Knowing that it's a turn-based, I was a little worried about the complications of it. I love turn-based combat games, but oftentimes they can become a little bit too much. Too many different mechanics playing all together at once. And this game, though the learning curve, I would say, was a steep curve right at the beginning because I had to read a bunch of text to understand every single character's interactions. As soon as you figured it out, the rest of it was smooth sailing. So I think the combat was really good and really fun. There were so many things that you could do rather than just click attack and or item or skill. Like there were so many different combinations that you can do, so many different variables that you had to look out for, burn, darkness, all these different like attributes on top of, your free aim shot, your just overall gameplay mechanics that you can do when Ciel goes into Twilight, when Lune has all her stains. Like these are so varied and so interesting when you're blending them all together. So I think that was a really cool aspect about the turn-based combat, and it made it way more engaging, especially the dodge and the parry. God dang, if they didn't have that dodge and parry, this game would not be as solid as it is. But because they had those mechanics, every single moment these battles were actually engaging and very fun. So hats off for the combat mechanics. And now the last part is my favorite aspect. One of the reasons why I actually love this game and I considered it a masterpiece is the narrative itself. I released a video essay last week talking about sort of the generational impacts that could have affected, the overall story. But watching the game was so incredible with the cutscenes. The overall premise that, hey, only 33-year-olds and under can live, or 32-year-olds and under can live right now. The rest of you are gone. And the fact that it keeps ticking down and down, like that's such a dooming feeling. And I could only see it with all those children represented in the beginning. And I was like, that's so crazy. That's such a crazy premise. And then all of a sudden you got the expedition, they're going, and then all of a sudden Renoir happens. You're like, holy crap, everyone's dying. You're going through all these locations and seeing all the other expeditions that failed. You're learning all about the world and everything. And it was just such a amazing narrative. So much so that even when they did the flip, when it stopped becoming about sort of survival, and it turns out this was about escapism, jumping into this fake painted world with all these characters, and Mayel, or Alicia, is now confused and she doesn't want to leave the canvas. Like that whole shift also happened so gracefully as well. And I was like, God dang, like the overall plot of escaping into these fantasy worlds is something that, provides so much comfort. But at the end of the day, we also have to be in the real world too. So that whole juxtaposition with the narrative was so great. One of my favorite parts about the game, and it is a certified masterpiece. Best of the year, in my opinion. For now, who knows if that changes, because this has been a really solid year for games, which is insane. I feel like COVID was like one of those times where everything sort of got delayed, and now it got delayed to a point where now everything is coming together, and that is this year. There are so many good games. It's insane. And I want to talk about all of them with you because there's so many good games. But with the good out of the way, let's talk about the bad, because there are some bad things for me, primarily with accessibility. Now, this can be easily appended, but there are some aspects of accessibility that I would have really appreciated, primarily with a map. I can understand that you won't have access to the map of the previous expeditions from the start, but have the map generate as you go through all these levels. I think that would help tremendously. because although the visual direction is gorgeous and everything looks like a painting, it is kind of hard to understand where you're going at times. A lot of different parts feel too cluttered visually that I don't know exactly if this path is any different from this path. I think the biggest level that I felt this, and it sort of has been a huge thing, was the gestural secret base hideout location. And I was like, okay, I'm going here. And I looped around and I was like, did I go backwards or did it actually loop around? So I think that would have been really nice. And then you could have followed it up with, if you find, the audio logs of the expeditioners, you can also find a copy of their map. That'll map some places that you have not been to. Another aspect of accessibility is, let me know what places I visited. Give me a visual cue on the map, the overworld map. Give me a check mark if everything has been finished there, or give me some information. Like, can I highlight over it and go like, yeah, you have 0 out of 3 expedition logs there. That would be fantastic. For the completionist in me, I do want to complete the game. I just wish there was a way to track it in the game. And I'm not saying give it to us immediately. If you didn't want to, that's totally fine. If you want the joy to be the exploration of the expedition, that's gorgeous. But when you're done with the game, when you finish the game, you've beaten the game, now you're going to clean everything up and go to the other optional bosses. Hey, some tracking things would be really great, and I would love them. So that's probably my biggest gripes. Again, totally doable to play the game without these things, but overall, it would have enhanced the experience for me. And finally, let's talk about the details and themes that resonated with me. So, the idea about escapism is a theme that I really, really love. I feel like today, in the modern age, we are all living in separate, isolated bubbles. I think a lot about this with the show called MASH or Seinfeld. Many people in the past have discussed that when the season finales or the show finales of both MASH and Seinfeld were airing, particularly in New York, you could feel an emptiness inside the streets because everyone was at home watching these shows. That is a crazy thing for me to think about. That is something that we don't experience today because there's no cultural phenomenon anymore that is like grabbing everyone and dragging them home to watch these shows. I think the last thing that was like that was Game of Thrones, that ended terribly. But it gathered so many people together to all experience this thing together. And because of that, there was a huge collective understanding about, the art that we escape into. But now it feels like with escapism, we are going to completely different worlds. Mael is going to Verso's canvas. This is not her own world. This is, her brother's world. And in relation to my video essay, thinking about Gen Z and all the other generations who are so young at the time, Generation Alpha and Beta as they come along, they're all entering a world in which everything can be just created for them, tailored for them. Hey, they didn't like something, they can just choose a completely different ending. They can choose a completely different world to inhabit instead. So that's something that I think as a theme was so incredible to see portrayed, especially because of how the game portrays the sort of staying in the canvas as the more negative one. But if you leave, it's like everyone dies and the whole game and the whole world that you were experiencing is just gone. Like, it's crazy. It's enough to put out a video essay, which I did, which I would definitely recommend that you do check out, because I do think when creating the game, I know that generationally we can look at that game and say like, yeah, sometimes the newer generations are going to feel a little bit more doomed, primarily from technology. You're going to have so much isolation and as well as so much misinformation and escapism, and then also anxiety because everything is being thrown at you at once. So I fear for the futures, and it makes me feel worried about a lot of different aspects. And I think this game touched on a lot of those subjects, at least for me. But overall, it's a wonderful game, and I think escapism is such a interesting concept, especially to portray in this world. So with all that in mind, again, with the good, with the bad, and with those themes that really meant a lot to me, I would rate this game a solid 10 out of 10. There is no question about it. This is a certified masterpiece. Anything below 10 out of 10 is a fabrication. It is an absolute lie. This game deserves a 10 out of 10, and I'm so excited for whatever Sandfall Interactive does after this. So there you have it. I gave you my thoughts and opinions about what Clair Obscur Expedition 33 meant to me, and now I want to hear what you all think about it down in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with my opinions and the general consensus about it? Let me know, and if you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like and subscribing for more. As always, check the links in the description for my main video essay channel and my Patreon to support the channel and recommend me media for me to review next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.